Hello and welcome to the Calmcast, a time to feel calm and think clearly. I'm Claire Downham, the Queen of Calm, a transformational life coach. I was a burnt out head teacher who finally made the journey to calm after years of trying, and I want to prevent you from having to do the same. The Calmcast is a series of short explorations, gently guiding you back to your natural state, which is calm and clarity. Just listen like you would listen to music, with an open mind and curiosity. There's nothing else to do. Now let's relax into today's episode. So today I'm talking about optimism, and along the way we'll probably end up talking about pessimism too, because I think the two are connected, aren't they? And like many of these sessions, the first thing I did actually was look up those words on the online dictionary, and pretty much optimism is about looking into the future and thinking things are going to turn out okay. They're not the exact words of the Oxford Dictionary, but they're the words I'm going for. And pessimism is I'm not going to say it's the opposite, because I'm hoping by the end of this you'll see that they are not opposites. But pessimism is defined as looking into the future and seeing that things are not going to work out as we might like them to, that there's going to be a bad, in inverted commas, a bad outcome in the future. So I have a little bit of a relationship with these words, because I would have said that probably in the past, way back, way before the burnout, I would have called myself pessimistic. I generally looked into the future and didn't see things working out so well. I was quite an anxious person. I was quite a worrier, and generally that involved, well, a lot of the time it involved people dying, unfortunately. Like my husband at the time, my ex-husband now, was late home from work. I would have him, I'd be looking for the life insurance policy and checking I knew where that was, because I'd have concerns that he wasn't going to appear, and that was going to be that kind of thing. And so I did do quite a lot of work on becoming more optimistic. So I kept a gratitude journal. That was one of the main things. Probably the affirmations that I used were very much forward-facing and about being better in the future. And I did quite a lot of work on myself, I suppose, to become a more positive thinking person and a more optimistic person. Well, first of all, I don't see that is who I am anyway, my thinking anymore. But also, what I see about this is that we have been sold a bit of a dud, really, in this whole idea of making ourselves be more optimistic, because actually it seems it can be quite a lot of work. I felt like it's quite a lot of work doing it. I had to do a gratitude. I did it every day for about 5 years. Did affirmations every day for maybe not as long as 5 years, but not far off. And really, it's, yeah, we've been sold a dud, guys. I mean, I'm just going to say it. We have been sold a bit of a dud. Because let's think about what we're saying here. Well, we're saying that pessimism is this looking into the future and seeing things are going to go badly, and optimism is about looking into the future and seeing things are going to go better. It's if we have a pessimistic thought about the future, we might try to swap that for a more optimistic view. So here we've got some thinking that's pretty difficult for us, maybe because we've made up the future, and that is difficult thinking. That's why it feels awful. And then on top of that, we're trying to swap in. So we're focusing on this negative view, and then we're trying to swap in a more optimistic view. So then we've got a lot of noise in our heads, and almost sometimes, you may have noticed, there's a bit of a battle between these two. There's a battle between the pessimistic thoughts and the optimistic thoughts, as I'm going to start saying now that they are thoughts. And I think it was Michael Neal who once just said this really simply. it's just swapping one lie for another. Your worrisome thoughts about the future, your pessimistic views of what's going to happen in the future, your doom and gloom about the future is all lies, and that's why it feels pretty awful. That's why it makes you feel anxious. That thinking makes you feel anxious, not the thing you're making up, but the thinking about the future makes you feel quite anxious. But what we're doing really is filling our head with more noise about the future when we're trying to swap pessimistic thinking for optimistic thinking. That trying to swap that for that is just putting more noise into an already busy system. If you've got a negative, pessimistic thoughts about the future, you feel awful, you feel anxious, you feel riled up, you've got a lot on your mind, a lot whirring round in there. And then what you're doing then is trying to swap in more thinking about the future. And both of them are lies. I don't mean you're lying. I'm not having a go. I'm not saying, oh, you're deliberately lying about this. You don't know you are, because if you're caught up in that, it looks downright real, doesn't it? But it is swapping one lie for another. And all the things we've been told about your glass is half, if you think the glass is half full, you're an optimist. And if you think it's half empty, you're a pessimist. And all of that stuff also layered in with this, oh, I shouldn't be thinking negative about the future, I'm going to try and think positive, is also this stuff around the self and who we think we are. I would have said I probably wore a label of being pessimistic in the past. Did that help me to have a better experience of life? I suspect not. So there's clues in all of this in how they make you feel. Because I suspect that if you have a pessimistic thought about the future, and then you try to layer in on, you try to kind of squash that down with the optimistic thought of the future, I suspect you still feel very busy-minded and quite overwhelmed. I think I would have done. I think if I went there now, I would probably feel quite overwhelmed by it all. And your system, your body's going to tell you that. Your body's going to tell you that you've got too much thinking, that you are overwhelmed, that you've got a lot on your mind. Your body is going to tell you that by creating a really uncomfortable feeling, and that's giving you the clue that your thinking is off and there's too much of it. So where is it best to put our awareness? Well, it's not the future, is it? It's not swapping one lie about the future for a better lie, in inverted commas, about the future. I'm going to be a presentist. I've made up a new word. I like to make up words. You'll know that if you've been here before. I love a made up word. Yeah, how about that? How about noticing that thinking about the future feels flipping awful, and realising that is your system letting you know you've got flipping awful thinking, and it's letting you know your state of mind's a bit ropey right now. And what happens when you bring awareness to that is a natural falling back into the present moment. And the present moment is the only reality, as much as anything is reality. This is where you can. It's here, the next word can come out of my mouth. The future never ever exists. There's only ever the present moment. And I know you've seen that. I know that when you have fallen naturally into the present moment for whatever reason, whether it's because of an emergency or because you have a moment with a loved one or a moment in nature or whatever it is, or just you find your flow in a piece of work you have to do today or any other day, That's where your power is. You don't need to be pessimistic or optimistic because it's all just thoughts about the future. That doesn't mean you can't plan a holiday and think, oh, it's going to be nice. But swapping doom and gloom about the holiday for a more positive made-up idea about the holiday means you're missing now. Wherever you're busy, caught up in thinking about the future, you're missing now. And the joy is in now. There's only joy available in now, actually, when you're really in the now. So notice what happens when you get caught up in any kind of future thinking and how that feels. And join me in the mission to become a presentist, which is a wonderful made-up word. I love it. Thank you so much for listening. There's nothing to do now but bring some awareness to how this is working out in your life. Listen regularly to experience longer and longer periods of calm. This has been the Calmcast with Claire Downham, Queen of Calm. Take care and keep listening.